night comes, it is prudent to kiss each of your wife or lover's eyelids before she sleeps. This seals them shut with love so that her soul cannot be siphoned out through them by passing phantoms craving a body. It also ensures that enchanters cannot send her sleepwalking to commit murder. When morning comes, it is prudent to wake your wife or lover by licking the bottoms of her feet. This will make her feet restless and slippery, ensuring that she will not be stuck in one place, one situation, but instead will be ready for travels and adventures. What's that, you ask? Who kisses the man's eyelids and licks his feet? The thing is that the male generally has less sensitive psychic equipment, which makes it less likely for enchanters to be successful with the sleepwalking. As for passing phantoms, the male lying unkissed acts as a sort of bait, drawing attention away from her. This further makes the household stink of self-sacrifice, which passing phantoms avoid the smell of since it reminds them of Christ. If, against probability, he does get possessed, the wife will know as soon as he fails to lick her feet in the morning. It will be confirmed the following evening when he fails to kiss her eyelids. A case in point is the story of Ljubica Labudna, the Serbian ballerina. Ljubica Labudna was born at night time in old Yugoslavia. She married a house painter when she came to Belgrade. You can always tell a house painter a mile off because they always dress or overdress the same. Whatever the season or temperature, house painters wear 2 white coats, one over the other. To be more exact, they are off-white. To non-painters they all look the same, but amongst themselves each painter considers himself very individual in his particular shade of white. This man, whose name was Fitar, wore the hue called hog's bristle. He impressed the young ballerina by refusing to eat food unless it was out of her hand, or drink wine unless it was from her mouth. He actually had paint on his hands and didn't want to get it on anything. He also had a steady, dependable living, which is something to hold on to in Belgrade, the most bombarded city in Europe. Belgrade attracted bombs and bullets the way a car windscreen collects bird shit. When they were together in his flat, Peter would take off one coat then the other, and hang them on separate coat stands. When she climbed into bed with him, she felt a lack of presence, as if she were in bed alone. She'd curl up in his arms but feel the same as if he were but a pillow or blanket. In the middle of the night, however, she would fly awake and find that she was alone in bed. Looking up, she'd see 2 Petars standing where each coat had been hanging. These 2 clones would then climb into bed and make love to her, one to her body and the other to her soul, until an orgasm shook her awake again to find the 2 coats still hanging. Some mornings she'd be confused as to whether it had been a dream or not, and whether she was awake now or not. They married quickly. She wore a black wedding dress and veil, a color she loved since she was born at night, and he wore 2 off-white tuxedo jackets, one over the other. When he carried her out of the church, his friends used a thick paint roller to paint a red path for them to traverse from the church to the car. They moved into a modest house near the Danube, which he repainted every season to complement the changing colors in the surroundings. Each night he kissed her eyelids before she slept, and each morning he licked the bottoms of her feet. This was a great help to her dancing career, by the way, and her slippery feet plus her dark-colored dress sense gave her the nickname Dark Swan. When they slept, Peter always dreamt each dream twice, as if in 2 separate coats, so as to make the final memory clear and glossy. Indeed, there was never the threat of trouble, but being Belgrade one night, a stray warplane flew overhead and dropped a bomb. It missed Lubitsa's house, but it shook the whole neighborhood awake. After 2 hours of people pouring out of houses to view and discuss the damage, and emergency services coming and going, the couple went back to sleep. The next morning, Peter did not lick Lubitsa's feet. With concern, she noticed she was not as light as usual in dance practice. The following night, Peter failed to kiss her eyelids. Thus, she knew that something was wrong.
My darling, I am having trouble sleeping. The bed is too soft and too hot. Let us instead lay my full-length mirror on the floor and sleep on that.
What a strange request, my love. Alright. Whatever pleases you.
During the night, Lubitsa had only pretended to sleep. The reflection was not his. It was another man in the mirror.
What do you want? You have me pinned. Very clever.
Who are you? What are you doing inside my husband?
Husband? You already had a fiancé, remember? I was killed in Kosovo.
You? I did not recognize you. You look pale now. Like a vampire.
I've been floating around, waiting an opportunity like this. When that bomb landed, it blasted your new husband half out of his body. I seized the opportunity to rush in.
Get out! Get out of him!
I refuse. I was never ready to part from you.
Very well. I'll have to outsmart you.
During the next few weeks, Peter got weaker and weaker. But in the mirror each night, his strange reflection got more robust and rosy-cheeked. Lubitsa had to stop dancing and look after Peter. But he only became more irritable. His eyes sunk further into his head and his mood blackened and weighed him down. Soon he had barely any fat on him, and any food in sight made him drool as if he were starved of sustenance.
Oh! You've drawn blood!
Lubitsa had an idea. She hoped with the trail of blood to lure the vampire out of her husband's body. She waited with the knife ready to strike. The next day, Lubitsa was taken to hospital since a rafter had knocked her out. Peter was found dead, not from debris but from weakness. His body did not have enough blood cells. A priest anointed him with oil, saying, "Sorcery is afoot," but it was to no avail. When Lubitsa came out of hospital, it was just in time for Peter's funeral. Painters and dancers attended, the painters wearing white and the dancers black. Each painter, instead of dropping soil on the coffin, painted a new coat on the lid as a goodbye, so that the coffin ended up with 20 or so coats of various shades of white. Lubitsa performed Undying Swan. The years that followed saw Lubitsa become well known in Europe as a dancer. She had a string of lovers who all rapidly declined in health and died young or disappeared. It was at this period that I, Milorad Lukashenko, met her and became one of those lovers. I grew up slightly slower than did the technology around me. I was always rushing to catch up, but robots do not run out of breath, do they? No, well, I don't have to tell you, I became anxious. So anxious, in fact, that I gradually stopped going outdoors for fear of paper birds attacking me from above. Even at home, they'd crash into my windows now and then as if killing themselves. Occasionally, I opened the door and unraveled one, read the message that was written on its belly, and fed it more ink. That usually got them to fly away. They multiplied, and they smashed into the windows so often that some windows shattered. I boarded them up, but we were under siege. And unless I fed them ink, they would never leave. I had band-aids stuck all over me from the paper cuts I received from their beaks. My poor mother. She had to live with it too, although the birds ignored her, so she never got cut. My mother. As my mother aged, she got smaller and smaller. When she was small enough to fit in my pocket, I knew it was time to gather her swag and begin traveling. I was able to live the high life because, well, I had my mother in my pocket. Whenever the bill came, I took my mother out and extracted money from her. I fell in with a crowd of like-minded people who also traveled, drank wine, read poetry, sought adventure, each with a little mother in their pockets, or, which was more common in young ladies, a shrunken little father. This lifestyle continued for some time, meeting people in one city and parting ways, only to meet again in another. I moved in a haze of booze, romance, political discourse, art, and troublemaking. And then one night, after a lobster and cocktails, I took out my ragged mother and found she was empty. Not a cent came out. Well, I wasn't just thrown out of the restaurant, I was beaten senseless and then tossed out.
Good morning. How may I help you?
I need to repair my mother.
Give us a look. She's worn out, mate. Why don't you buy a new one? I've got a selection of second-hand mothers and fathers here, always willing to work out a payment method that works for all parties.
They were sinister little mas and pas, looking up with hungry little eyes. The prices were depraved and ultimately too high. I left without. The only place I could go was a ghetto. It was full of gypsies and khazars. What advice can you give me? I ask the poor, since the poor are as immortal as the god.
Your only options are working or sitting still.
What do you mean, sit still?
Well, it's logical. To need money to buy food, we need food for energy. But if we do nothing all day long, what do we need energy for? Sit down all day long in a box of raisins. Maybe a gulp of wine is all you need to keep the blood pumping and the lungs heaving, right?
I suppose.
In fact, if you can even cut those things out, you won't need food at all. You could live forever dead.
I suppose you're right, but I've gotten used to a certain lifestyle.
Well, there's more benefits to sitting. If you move someone who's been sat for years, the dirt underneath them will, from years of compression, have formed into various jewels and precious stones, depending how long you've been sitting there. So at least one or two will get you a fare on the next train or a room in a nice hotel. That's all the advice I can give. Do what you want. We've all got problems.
So that's what I did. I was too broke for a room. I went back to the edge of town and I found a comfortable patch of earth to sit on. Soon enough, I was on the edge of death. So far, so good. Spam. Adventurous job, no experience needed. Big money for those with courage. Apply at West Mall recruiting office. Sunday markets. This will give me a burst of energy, surely. Yes, a ruby! That's another meal at least. The recruiting office was in the middle of an indoor marketplace that sold fish, food that tasted like other foods, and vegetables that looked like fruits, as well as assorted antiques that were found to be void of any history. The fish were sorted by what musical scales they had on their skin, and so most of the customers crowding around were musicians and composers. The problem was that pacing around like a loose tiger in front of the recruiting office was a madman. His two wild eyes were separate entities which looked out at the world independent of each other. Everyone cleared the space around him, tried not to meet either eye with theirs. Hanging from his torso was a brick on a rope. I held back.
Oh dear.
After pacifying the monster, she returned to the office. I took the opportunity to step past the man and enter after her. Hello? I'm here to sign up for work.
Hi, please fill in these. Take a seat, the boss will be back shortly.
Hello. The name is Werblick.
Milorad.
I'll be with you presently.
That's the man from outside.
Yes, he's the boss. He stands out the front spruiking the business each morning.
Spruiking? But he was raving mad.
He begins spruiking, but turns. He suffers from a psychological condition. That's why he wears the brick on a rope. It was prescribed by his therapist.
Ah. Oh, well, that explains his lack of anger towards you.
We go through that ritual each day. He goes out the front trying to win recruits. The madness comes on and I pacify him with the brick therapy. Hello? What's that you say? You want me to give you time to say something? I'm not listening, you say? Okay, I'll stop talking. All right. He's ready to see you now.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Hello. Please, have a seat. Actually, can you help me with that desk, will you? Look, Malevich.
Milorad.
Milorad. There's nothing too flash going on right now. But if you stay for a while, do some menial jobs, something decent is sure to come up, okay? We're a good company, and we stick with you in the long term and find you a good job. How does that sound?
So I got a job cleaning carpets. Not so bad if you like Persian rugs. I was called to a lot of Middle Eastern residences in Sufi groups, but that's another story. The best way to clean an old carpet is to comb playing cards through it, because you'll be sure to find old casino chips, coins and jewelry that you lost in there over the years. If you brush tarot cards through it, you'll find disconcerting objects you thought you'd long gotten rid of months ago, as well as some things you'd never seen before. The death card will produce the means to your end in the form of a poisonous pill, or a knife, or say a lost phone number you probably shouldn't call, and so on. It was in this way with playing cards that I earned a good income on the side. It was also this way with the tarot cards that I found the business card of a Serbian ballerina named Ljubica. Later, I watched some footage of her dancing while I called the number, just out of curiosity. She was wearing a black tutu in the clip. The phone rang for a bit, and finally someone answered. I heard her breath first, and then a woman's voice said,
I love you.
My reply pushed itself out of my mouth. I love you too. I put the phone down in fright. I'd meant it. The resolve was unmistakable, though I'd never met or seen her outside of that clip. I then all but forgot the incident. The more I continued in my carpet cleaning job, the more customers wanted me to read their fortunes in their carpets. Some customers only wanted that, and this was my life. The only inkling of discontent showed itself to me in strange ways. If I ever went to the ocean, for example, and stirred the water with my erect penis, my reflection broke up and turned into the image of Ljubica. A couple of months later, the boss called me in.
I can't get close to him.
Oh dear. I haven't got long, kid. You've been with us, what, a couple of months now?
Almost 12. Carpet cleaning.
I've never told you, but this brick therapy stuff has strong side effects. Chances are I won't last the year. But you're a good worker and you've done your time. I have another job for you. This one's got more money, more adventure, travel, but more risk too.
What's the job?
The world has lost its shine. We've been hired to find it. Big money, I'm talking. You'll be set after this. You get me? Anyway, it seems we've narrowed it down to Eastern Europe. Around the Black Sea. Somewhere between old Yugoslavia and the Ukraine. That's where it went. That's where it is. As such, we've been sending agents over there to find it. We've lost 6 agents already. I'll be honest, you will be the 7th. If you take the job.
Find its shine. What do you mean, lost its shine?
It's luster. You know. All the money has blood on it now. Even diamonds and coins are dull in the sunlight these days. There's nothing worth committing suicide over anymore. That's almost worth committing suicide over. Death is bearing down on us like a salad.
They started training me up. I learned how to mount a camel running while holding a rifle, how to remember my dreams and forget my days, how to chew my food with my throat while smiling with my teeth, how to divine the future from calendars, how to say deep universal truths through small talk, and predict a person's politics by his posture and gestures, how to ferment sugar inside my body and thus get drunk on anything sugary, how to make my poo imitate the droppings of any animal. It's quite hard. How to break a mirror without getting bad luck, how to do long division and other things like that. I flew to Belgrade, sir. I had no idea where to start to look for the shine of the world, so I frequented Gurdjieff's temples, a crowded cafe, most days and bars at night. It wasn't a bad lifestyle considering I had a per diem. In Belgrade, coffee and sweets are served on open books instead of sources, so that the pages are revealed slowly each morning and the story chewed properly. They chase away their shadows, which are Syrian and Gypsy, and collect holy water in their belly buttons. The wind named Koshava is Turkish and invades from the Danube like a pilot light left on in order to keep their ages-long wars technically unfinished. All the nationalities of the previous Yugoslavian states speak different languages which happen to sound and read the same. I've also noticed the most elegant women have high-heeled bones, and one often forgets one's hands if inside gloves. Here, if you eat while sleeping, you could stab your face with a fork and feed the plate. In winter, one mixes the ashes of relatives with dough to make a bread, each loaf having a navel. This they use fresh out of the oven for a pillow at night. In their dreams, Yugoslavia still exists, which is why morning brings melancholy. In half-bomb schools, they are taught that Yugoslavia is the future, not the past, and is often pronounced utopia or Yugotopia. One day I bought a newspaper and I saw Lubitzer on the front page. In an instant I remembered her and our 7-word phone call. Her latest lover had died, and the funeral was coming. I made sure to be there, discreetly of course. Her lover had been a chef. As such, the funeral service was populated by sad chefs with black hats and black aprons. The coffin bearers were dressed as waiters, and the coffin itself looked like a man-sized chrome oven dish with lid on. The wake revealed the deceased himself to have an apple in his mouth. As a goodbye, each chef either gave him a new glazing or sprinkled spices on him. The idea, of course, was to prepare him to be consumed by the gods, or the void, or the gods of the void. Lubitsa seemed to have a bodyguard near her at all times, so I couldn't get too close. He wore glasses and had eyes that looked like they were painted on the lenses. Perhaps it's because he never blinked. For the next 6 months, I went to every performance she did. Her most popular piece was The Dying Swan, which fans went crazy over. On the 7th month, her next lover died, and the funeral was just as publicized. This man had been a musician working in productions with her. His coffin was a large man-sized guitar case. Mourners threw in extra packets of guitar strings and plectrums, so he'd not be wandering the earth looking for a pick after he'd buried. One man played a funeral march on the deceased's guitar before placing it in the coffin with a dead lover, who would be able to serenade his way through the doors of heaven. This kind of thing went on, and I turned up to each funeral. Her next lover was a clown. A little Volkswagen buggy arrived to a deserted graveyard, and the entire procession of clowns, some 50 people, climbed out of it. They even retrieved the coffin from it, and each coffin bearer wobbled on a unicycle. The one after that was a magician, and before they lowered the coffin, they got Lubitsa to cut it in half. After that, she had the Russian soldier for a lover. They gave him a babushka burial. They lay him in the coffin, then put the coffin in a larger coffin, and then they put the larger coffin in a larger coffin. So, finally, she had a beekeeper for her lover. His funeral was held in a cloud of bees, and all the attendees wore beekeeper suits and masks. His coffin doubled as a beehive, and the bees made honey in its walls. The idea was that they'd later make honey in his skull, which would translate as sweet thoughts in the afterlife. I came unprepared, in a black suit, and I was prone to the stings. This was to my advantage, however, because Lubitsa was the only attendant without a mask. Her hot teapot chased the bees away. She remained in a bee-less aura of a meter or so surrounding. I had to get close to her this time.
I've seen you at each funeral. Perhaps you think I am soulless, that all these men mean nothing to me, that I killed them.
I tried not to look directly at her, focusing on the black knitted veil.
Is that why you are following me?
This time I met her eyes, and there it was, the world's shine. I understood how all those men could line up to die in her arms.
It's not true.
No. Do you remember me? Her eyes widened, revealing yet more shines and sparkles from other worlds.
You! Of course I remember. I meant what I said.
And with that, she lost some of the sparkles in tears that fell. How could you? You seem to only love corpses.
I fall in love so easily.
She was called to gather honey from the coffin and distribute it among everyone to taste its sweet death.
What do you want?
What?
I've seen you hanging around at each funeral. Do you know Lubitsa?
Sort of.
Well, I'll sorta knock your teeth out of your head if I see you again, alright?
I beg your pardon?
I'm doing you a favor, buddy. You obsessive fans all seem to think nothing of throwing your lives away. Moths to a flame. I swear. Well, she doesn't need it. And you ought to treasure your life more. Make something of it, for God's.
It's not like that.
That's what the fellow in the coffin said. Fuck off.
From around that time, and seemingly unrelated, I began to wake up each morning with a melody in my head. I don't know where it came from, but I always heard it on trumpet, and felt that it was left over from last night's dream. I must have been having the same dream each night because I had the same melody in my ears and on my lips each morning. 2 weeks later, Lubitsa called me and asked me to read her carpet. My heart raced. I'd read in the news that she'd had some kind of health scare since I'd seen her, and she'd spent a night in hospital. I went over to her home with a Martial deck. As instructed before going in, I called her from the street. She answered the phone like she would a door.
Hello there. Do come in. As you can see, this blanket is almost as thick as the carpet, so I thought you could make an exception.
What blanket? Hello? When I arrived at her second floor flat, she answered the door like you would a telephone. She'd opened it and stood sideways listening.
Hello?
It's me, the carpet cleaner.
Oh, hello. Please come up. The door will be open.
She was smoking a Kadek and wore a silk scarf around her neck.
Over here, Millerad.
The bodyguard was standing outside on a terrace balcony. I thought I'd been tricked and braced myself for a fight.
See that blanket?
It had a Peruvian Amazon design on it, reminding me of ponchos. It's not a carpet.
I realize that, but Lubitsa hoped you'd make an exception. We'll pay well.
I don't need the money. What's so special about the rug?
Oh, so you'll do it for love, will you? Well, I'll tell you.
And then he told me the story of Lubitsa's Peruvian blanket.
Some time ago, a certain woman was found dead, strangled by her own blanket in the night. Although the police obviously suspected murder, they eventually ruled it out. The strangulation was due, apparently, to excessive tossing and turning amidst tumultuous dreams. Her husband told her of the dreams and the tossing, and of the mornings where she woke entangled in blankets and sheets. It got so much that he had not been sleeping in the same room for a few weeks. As such, he had an alibi. She died alone. Anyway, he gave the blanket to a police officer, telling him to throw it in the garbage, since it would surely bring bad luck. But the police officer liked the Peruvian pattern on it, and thought it was such a shame to waste. Not willing to keep it himself, he nevertheless decided that as long as people didn't know about its history, they ought to get a chance to treasure it. He donated it to a second-hand shop. Lubitsa received the blanket as a gift from a fellow dancer who knew she'd love the design. Within days, frantic and dynamic dreams accosted her sleep, which, nevertheless, she could not remember. But each time she awoke tangled in her blanket, as if it were a prison.
Wait.
It was an orgasm that woke me each time.
What?
How do you know what happened before she got the blanket?
If someone gives Lubitsa a gift, I make sure I know where it came from. Track its history.
Eventually I remembered bits of my dreams, always passionate, encounters with a Peruvian man. I awoke in the same way each day, glistening with sweat and wet between the legs.
She never changed or washed the blanket. It pissed me off.
You wouldn't understand, Sam. I became enthralled by the pattern and the colors, even the scent. Sam was jealous.
No, I wasn't. I was suspicious, that's all. It's my job. It felt as if someone was getting past me, under my nose.
Sure.
We agreed she'd stay alone for a while, till we solved the problem of all these deaths, instead of jumping from man to man yet again.
Did you solve it?
I'll get to that, if it's relevant. I'm talking about this blanket.
Right. Alright, okay.
A couple of days ago, a friend found her choked by the blanket. But luckily, she wasn't quite dead. We managed to revive her while the ambulance came.
This time I dreamed very clearly. He is indeed Peruvian. He was poor but a great lover. The one that he loved the most picked a wealthy man instead, and the Peruvian lost everything. He died hugging himself in that blanket in the cold. The blanket traveled the world in a suitcase of one traveler or another, but the Peruvian had hugged it so tightly, such was the cold, that he kept hugging it even after his body died away. The blanket was his anchor, a foothold on the physical plane, and whenever a woman used it to warm herself, The warmth of a living body, marrow flowing from bone to bone, blood circulating, a hypnotic pulse. All this drew him even further back to earth. I made love to him all night in my dreams. Don't be jealous. In these dreams I was not Lubitsa. I was a woman named Beatrice, the one who had left him. But though the sex was earth-moving, his body was always icy cold. His penis was icy cold inside me. And as always, he always hugged me tight to warm himself, as if the dead had ice for blood, and he gripped me like a hot water bottle.
Water? Blood?
And that morning, well, he hugged me too tight and my air was cut off.
All right, enough. Now you know why we want you to read the carpet.
But you've solved it already. My advice is to burn it. Release the Peruvian ghost.
Humor us.
What's more is there to know? Burn it! Don't read it.
If someone said that of a book, what would you say?
Well, alright. Lubitsa, pick a card. Judgment.
Give me a look.
After.
What is it?
A washer for a tap.
Why a washer? Damn it!
There's something you're not telling me.
Look at the card. The angel is blowing a trumpet.
I don't understand.
If you want me to help, you'll have to talk.
Mind your own business. We got you here to talk, not to listen.
Sam, I'm sorry, Milorad. He means well.
What does it mean, Milorad? The card with the trumpet and the washer?
Milorad, please.
A great deal. Oh, but my technique is thorough. I will return here tomorrow at the same time to present my complete reading. They weren't happy with that. Lubitsa was anxious and Sam suspicious, but that's how it was. I took the blanket with me. That night I made sure to sleep without enough warmth so that I didn't sink too deep into sleep. This was in aid of being aware of my dreams.
Ah, I have been spotted. Well, since you've now peered inwards and seen me, I ask that you remember I am a musician. Seeing me is only half the story. Please, cock your ears inwards and hear me too. And you can still throw me out afterwards if I fail to move you. Here is the other half. I'm a trumpeter, and wind instruments came into being at about the same time that plumbing did. A plumber would blow into the pipes of a place. The purity of a note would tell him the pipes were clear. An unclean note, perhaps off key, betrayed blockage, and a good plumber would know just where the blockage was. In the beginning, they set the plumbing up and tuned it to the keys that scared devils away. But New York City in the 50s, man, that was when plumbers really flowered. They'd play whole pieces on the pipes, and jazz musicians even picked their homes by the quality of the sound. Gigs happened in apartments. Anyway, later they ripped off some pipes to make it portable. That's me. Here's my horn, evolved and a far cry from plumbing. I'm no New Yorker, as you can tell. I'm a Serb, and one day in Belgrade, I was called to a lady's flat because her kitchen was flooding. I went in and played her pipes. Found the blockage. Didn't take long, but the thing is, this woman seemed to get off on ordering the hired tradesmen around. "Get on your knees," she'd say, and then watch as I got under the sink. All that kind of thing. But I showed off a bit, played some melodies. Next thing you know, she orders me into the bedroom and gets me to play her pipes. I'm not kidding. Hold on now. This isn't some brag. Hear me out. Her legs were in the air and my head went down and I started playing. There were all sorts of blockages, but I'm damned if I didn't flush her out. The upshot is, she started calling me regularly, and I ended up marrying her. I really learned her body. One melody induced a need to pee. Another, and up came the orgasm. She got sick, and I healed her the same way. Like she was a trumpet. But this was Yugoslavia. And well, one day I got crushed by a building and died. American bomb. I was not ready to go. Who is? So I took refuge in the plumbing. She heard my sobs every time she washed dishes. Heard my lust every time she flushed the toilet. I was stuck. I was either in the pipes or I'd fall away from Earth to afterlife. So I clung, not bearing to leave her. A breakthrough came once she menstruated. I got down there and feasted on their blood each month. This provided an anchor for me. Blood is life. She liked it at first, but the deceased can't have a modest serve of life, so I took too much. I needed more, and the other stuff was cleaner, so I fed on her constantly. I can't help it. I'm a junkie. My wife lost weight. Her skin lost all color. She became so weak that I was able to climb into her pipes and take over. Search for more blood from others. If she died, we'd have both fallen from Earth. I didn't want that. But then I'd forgotten everything but my addiction. At this point, her brother looked after her. He gave her some chicken one day, and she bit his hand and drew blood. Good news, I thought. But the brother got suspicious as to what's up. But she met a house painter and married him. And because of his diligence in superstitious customs, I was kept away. Finally, I managed against all odds to possess him. He didn't last long. I drained him. I guess I unintentionally drained her too. Which is why she became a vacuum for men.
What happened? You killed them all?
It was more accumulative. My addiction to flesh caused me to consume it, although often through her without free will. And then each man who was consumed ended up joining me in the pipes as if caught in a current of desire, and they were drained of life. They too had a vacuum inside, and they became vampiric too. And the whole house is a vampire black hole, each dead lover adding to its gravity.
I see. The plumbing is haunted by Legion. That's your name. You and all the hot broken lovers. But why are you in my dreams? Am I being sucked into the black hole? Is that it?
Don't turf me out. Please. I lost my foothold. I gained another in her dreams, but I was turfed out of there too.
No, you're not sucking me in. I won't allow it.
No, it's not what you think. I swear. It's more like rehab. I feel a lot of shame about vampirism. I even told her I'm sorry in her dreams. But her subconscious freaked out and she was unable to even think of me, let alone dream. I suppose it was a protective mechanism. She finally forgot me completely. The whole marriage erased. That did it for me. I lost her. I lost my foothold on the emotional plane as well as the physical. In a final effort to be with her, I populate other people's dreams. I move about so I'm not caught. One night per person, using your dreams like hotel rooms.
I suspect you've stayed in my dreams more than once, and guests in hotel usually pay for their stay.
Most of you don't remember your dreams anyway. None remember me. It's only the tune I play on the trumpet that lingers in your heads when you wake up. But now, you've gone and found me. You're in hypnotherapy or in a meditation perhaps. Maybe you're lucid dreaming. The point is that I'm asking you, don't bounce me out. I'm not here alone. I'm just keeping close to Lubitsa. Who wouldn't? I can't let go. I've got to circle her like this until I come up with something. Please. I'll even make it worth your while. You'll awake with beautiful melodies in your head. Listen.
Where is Sam?
I wanted to talk to you alone, without my brother-in-law.
Sam is your brother-in-law?
His wife was my sister. She died soon after they married.
Of course she did.
That death had nothing to do with me.
Sure.
Tell me what you read in the blanket.
You never told me about your first husband, the musician.
How did you know about Casey?
The carpet, of course.
You are thorough. We didn't think he was a factor anymore. Sam exorcised him. He brought in another musician and interviewed me after a long time of suspicion. The musician stayed in the house, listened to the plumbing. He put two and two together, and finally we dug up Casey's body. There he was, lying in the coffin, all rosy-cheeked and bloated, no sign of deterioration. They drove a sword in his heart and cut off his head.
Well, that explains the scar.
What?
He's not gone. He's now squatting in my dreams. It's disgusting.
It can't be true. We thought we solved everything, that there'd be no more dead lovers. But when this blanket turned up, why you? Why your dream?
I figure I'm the next dead lover. And the blanket is just magnetized to your house because of a sympathetic level of emotional and spiritual unrest. But I'm not an expert.
No, you're lying. Get away from me. I don't want you to die.
It's not just the blanket. It's not just Casey. It's all of us. All of us men who love you, Lubitsa. Snowballing, diving into the black hole.
Go. Get away.
I won't go. None of them will go. They're all waiting for you. They're all there in the plumbing.
Get away from here. I'm a curse.
It's the house, Lubitsa. It's a sinking ship. You need to demolish this damned house and leave. Set the damned place on fire. Leave. come with me? Across the ocean.
No, I don't want your death on my hands too. Here, take this, please.
What is this?
Take it so Sam doesn't find it. Take it away from Serbia so the police don't smash it.
I really don't understand. It's you I'll take, not some rock. What is this rock?
It's a piece of Yugoslavia. There is not many pieces left. They break them apart whenever found. Now go!
I let her go. But the following day I went to her house to find her again. Oh my god. What happened?
A fire. Lupita is in there. I think she lit it up on purpose.
Oh, don't just stand there. What did you do, Lubitsa? You fool! You were supposed to leave. You weren't supposed to burn up with it. What are you doing?
Her tears. I needed to save the world.
The world? Save the world? Why didn't you save Lubitsa? Why on earth did you just stand there and watch? What the hell are you?
I can only see you from space, Millerad.
You're right. Well, they were painted on. You have no eyes.
I have very good eyes, but they are in the sky. My eyes are satellites. That's why I don't go indoors. I can't see in there, unless it's through a window. If I went to help Lubitsa, I would have burned up too.
What the hell are you? I thought you were her brother.
We told people that for a while, but then I posed as her bodyguard. I'm an android. I'm American. The world has lost its shine, Millerad. My mission was to find it. I went undercover, and now I finally have it here. One tear for each of Yugoslavia's guiding principles.
What? Brotherhood and unity?
That's right. They used to say, protect brotherhood and unity like the pupil of your eye. Good old Commander Tito. It is unfortunate that Lubitsa had to die, considering she had the hope of the world in her eyes.
Unfortunate.
It was regrettable, Millerad.
Regrettable? Regrettable, you mean like the death of Yugoslavia?
You should feel proud that you helped do your bit. One day, perhaps after some grieving, you'll understand that. Goodbye.
Long story short, I returned home. What else could I do? They barred anyone from going to her funeral in case we all got sucked down into the grave with her. What with how attracted we were, eh?
Hello, Millerad.
Oh, Hilda. Come in.
Hi, I just wanted to see if you're settled in. I know the trip was hard on you.
Thanks, I'm okay, I guess.
Bloody Yanks beat us to it, huh? Nevertheless, we managed to preserve a piece of Yugoslavia. That's something. I assume you heard about Werblich.
He died?
It was on the cards. Hey, speaking of cards, why is your carpet wrong side up?
Oh, I didn't notice that before. It's strange. I have never cleaned my own carpet.
Pick one.
Oh, crap. The judgment card.
It can also mean resurrection. See how the angels' trumpet calls from their graves. Their open hands reach for heaven like blossoming flowers. Let's see.
Find anything? What is it?
It's yerba mate leaves,
What is yerba mate?
a South American tea, very popular in Argentina.
What does it mean?
Have we not trained you well? It's obvious.
It seems obvious, but Lubitsi is dead.
I think the tea suggests she survived.
You mean?
That and the card, and
And she went to South America.
most likely Buenos Aires. And she's most likely changed her name, become someone else who is neither a vampire nor haunted by them. Milorad, calm down.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
All I did was read your carpet. It has nothing to do with me. You're going, aren't you?
I'm sorry. I have to see if it's true.
I understand. But listen, Werblich left the business to me. I was going to offer you a job.
Perhaps I'll return. Who knows?
Well, you always have a job here. Hey, Buenos Aires is cold this time of year. Make sure you take a blanket.
Right you are. Thanks for everything. Goodbye.
What a melonhead.